Hello and welcome to the Stronghold podcast. We are back again with some fights from today. Today we had the UFC. We had Islam Makhachev fighting last week. We've got Cain Velasquez on murder charges. We've got Angela Lee coming soon. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. So let's get going. Jake, the producer, is in the house. What's up, Jake?
How you doing?
Good, man.
Been a few weeks.
It's been, well, we did the one with Matt last week.
Yeah, true.
That actually podcast did pretty well. That did good on YouTube, and I got a bunch of downloads for that one. So I think people are into Matt. Florida power on display.
Matt, the man with the both simultaneously the quietest and loudest voice ever.
Yeah, he'll go from like 0 to yelling immediately. And Matt was doing good. People were hitting me up asking to get in contact with him for private lessons and shit like that. So Matt Polino fucking killing it. I saw his Instagram as well. His Instagram was popping the last couple of days. He has so many people in class and shit like that. So I'm glad he's doing well. If you haven't listened to that podcast, go listen to it. Matt's fucking awesome. He's this crazy Florida dude, big and loud and funny and loves to talk shit and chat. And he's a really, really experienced guy. He's trained with a bunch of people, including Sean Strickland, who's now ranked like number 4 in the UFC middleweight division. Jojo Calderwood, she's top 10. He's trained a bunch of people. And he and I used to work together in Malaysia, which was pretty trippy. And he comes out of that Malaysia scene with like Ev Ting and the Subas. And dude, there's so many fucking good people in Malaysia too. And he was an early on guy, Malaysian invasion. And he fought Will Chope on a boat. Will Chope, another alum of the podcast. So go listen to that podcast if you haven't. But today, Jake,
UFC.
Dude, it was a pretty good card, man.
To say no title fight is a damn good card still.
Yeah, I mean, Colby and Masvidal, I was like, dude, the whole week I was watching these hype videos. They're talking so much shit to each other. They just leaned into it. And you know what was weird? Is it seemed like, to be fair to Masvidal, Colby threw a couple late ones there at the end of the 5th round.
Yeah.
And you could see Masvidal pop up right at the end. And he was like, what the fuck, dude? And because it's weird. When Colby fought Usman, at the end of the fight, it ended the shtick for a minute. Right?
Yeah, where he hugs him.
You remember Joe Rogan talking about in the broadcast, he thought he made a bet. He said, I'll make a $20 bet that they hug after this.
Yeah.
Because, you talk shit, and both of them know that this is a lot of promotional stuff, but also they were friends. And I feel like generally the bad blood between people will only go to a point. Like, you still appreciate what those people did for you back then. And I thought, like Usman, it would be like that. But then you watch the end of that fight, and Colby threw a fucking couple of cheeky ones. It wasn't, like, late. But he was like, I'm going to flurry in the last 3 seconds, and then when I hear that stop, if my punch is flying, when I hear the bell,
momentum,
it's already going, and if that happens to hit you, oops. It was like that kind of situation.
Combine that as well with kneeing him in the balls in the first round.
Oh, yeah, a blatant cheap shot. Like, no, Jake and I were talking about this before the podcast, but if you watch, was it the second round?
I can't remember if it was the first or the second.
But they stopped the fight because Colby was clear a low blow on Masvidal. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he had space to throw that knee. Sometimes, like, if a person is moving in and you're aiming for the stomach and your momentum is going into theirs, the knee will rise up and hit you in the balls or something like that. But this one was like, he had plenty of time. There was space. He wasn't blocking him or anything. It just went straight into his balls. I was like, okay, Colby, that was cheeky.
He did it as well with enough force so that it'd be irritating, but it wouldn't stop the fight and he wouldn't get a point taken.
Yeah, I never saw Colby be like deliberately like that, but I was like, all right, dude, that was a little bit.
He does base himself on Ric Flair.
Yeah, exactly. But the fight was good, man. When Masvidal dropped him in the 3rd round or whatever, I was sitting there watching it while the kids were training and shit. I was just like, I was like losing my mind and stuff as it was going on. But I mean, Masvidal had his moments, but the problem was Masvidal couldn't. I don't know if, dude, ATT is a huge gym. His whole problem was that he kept getting pinned against the cage.
Yeah.
So Colby would shoot in, he would stick him against the cage, they'd be in there, and that's where most of his takedowns would come from. And in the 2 rounds that Masvidal had success, I think it was the 2nd and the 3rd, where they were doing more stand-up, he was cutting the cage a little bit better. He was staying in the middle, and Colby was throwing more, and they were able to exchange. And that was when the fight got fun. Right? They're both throwing at each other. Masvidal dropped him with that shot.
Yep.
But I feel like he was just too tired.
Yeah.
He was too tired after that. The wear and tear had already... He clipped him good. Boom, you see his head snap back. He drops down to a knee, but he couldn't just put down the gas at the end because I just don't think he had enough. And the ultimate story of the fight I felt was just Colby's cardio.
Oh,
If Masvidal had that level cardio, I think that would have been a fucking fight. Like, that would have been way more, because it was already competitive. But you could just see by the end, Colby was right. He talked about in his post-fight press conference, the body language, everything. You could tell that Masvidal just lost the energy. Colby hit him with that takedown in the 5th, and then he just stood there and bashed him and bashed him and bashed him, and he just couldn't get up anymore.
I was half watching the fight and half watching my kids in the pool, so I kept on like, look down, look up, look down, look up. But it just seemed to me every time I looked down, like Colby was on him like a backpack.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, this is only going one way.
I mean, Masvidal had his moments.
Yeah,
but ultimately,
yeah,
ultimately he just couldn't circle off the cage. He would get pinned against the cage, and then takedown would happen from there, and then Colby would do his thing. And but it was a fun fight. I was crunk for it. Like, the hype got me. I was totally in. Even the rest of the fights were pretty good, but that was the one. It was a bummer that we missed out on RDA versus Fiziev, because that would have been a way better fight, I feel like, than Moicano. Because Moicano just fought, and he was like, I think they said he had to lose 20 or 30 pounds in 5 days or some shit like that. And you could tell he just got gassed. And he came back toward the end of that 5th round, though.
But RDA also took the 5th round off.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the reason why. He was just, he's not that he stopped trying altogether, but he was like, oh, I'm just going to.
Yeah, just going to coast here at the end. But he beat him down in some of those rounds. I mean, he beat him down.
At end of the 4th, I thought they were going to stop it.
I thought at the end of the 3rd or something like that, there was another one.
Like they might, because he checked his eye twice.
Right, yeah,
at the
that
end
was
of the
around.
3rd, surprisingly, he could still see. But then I was just convinced at the end of the 4th they were going to say, like,
yeah, and then RDA took the end of that round off. But, dude, if it was Rafael Fiziev, that dude is he's a dark horse in that division. Rafael Fiziev is a beast, man. His boxing, he's the head coach now at not American Top Team, Tiger Muay Thai.
Yeah.
He's the coach of Tiger Muay Thai. And he fought Brad Riddell in his last fight. I watched it because they released it for free on YouTube or whatever, so I went back and watched it. And Brad Riddell was the former coach of Tiger Muay Thai, the Muay Thai coach. And so the two previous, and that fight was a fucking banger. And I think Riddell, he trains with Adesanya, and he trains with all those dudes at City Kickboxing. And I just remember thinking, like, damn, this dude is good. It was a good fight. Both guys fought really well. But, like, he's a fucking beast. And unfortunately, he got COVID, so he got bumped from that co-main event. But that would have been a banger. But for RDA, he's 37 years old, still doing the damn thing. One of these old dog Brazilians who just
won't quit. Won't quit. Maybe put together another run, get a title shot.
I mean, he's ranked. Was he 6? Was he 6 in
so.
the fight today? So I mean, he's still fighting on, man. Still, and he's awesome, by the way. I trained with him. I trained with RDA. He came to
because he's Evolve.
Yeah, he came to Evolve when I was there, and I got to roll with him, and he was fucking really awesome to roll with. This is actually before he was champ, like right before he went on his run, like literally 6 months to a year or something before he went on his title run. But also, it's kind of like, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, but Khabib was injured, like right, like it's low key. No disrespect to RDA's title run, because he's a fucking legend, right? Like, RDA's legit. Like, I trained with him. Awesome dude. Went on that fucking run. Knocked out Benson Henderson. Won the lightweight title. Defended the lightweight title. And then, but Khabib beat him before that.
Yeah.
Right? They had that match before that, and then Khabib got injured. But anyway.
Do you think, though, how much the landscape of MMA would have been different if he'd have actually fought Conor? We'd have none of this super fight nonsense.
If he had caught him first, right? If he got him before Conor won the title, because Khabib was already the number one contender.
RDA, because you remember Conor was supposed to fight RDA.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, he was supposed to fight RDA.
That's when the Diaz fight happened.
Yeah.
And that's when everyone was like, oh, you can just fight at whatever weight and whoever you want.
That would have changed a lot of things, actually. Because that was, the Nate Diaz fight.
No guarantee Conor would have won that fight.
Yeah, totally. You're right about that. I mean, it's hard to say, because 2016? 2016 Conor was fucking...
I mean, yeah, this is the Conor that fucked up Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, knocked him out. Yeah, easily. Yeah. And Jose Aldo and, like, Chad Mendez and, like, all within 2015, 2016. So, yeah. Did you see the thing where Conor's saying he's already going to come back for a title shot?
Yeah, I've seen it, but I'm serious about my training. I'm absolutely committed to MMA. Next Instagram post, in the pub, shit-faced.
Yeah. Also, like, dude, you can't walk. Like, when are you going to get back to regular training? And then, like, you already look a little on the decline. You need, like, a long time to build that shit back. Like, if you can't get it back when you're not coming off of a broken leg, getting it back after you come back from having all that time off, gaining all that weight, like, he's fucking huge. And, like, the fast twitch and shit like that, once you start getting to his age, like big dieting and changing, bulking up and cutting down and all that shit. Like that fucks with your fast twitch, and that's how Conor works. And you can just tell that's not the same dude. Like, that's not the hungry, fucking poor Irishman who came up fighting through the scene, and then, like, he's just not that anymore. He can still have good fights, but a title shot? The only thing that I would say to counter that, to play devil's advocate, is that stylistically, Charles Oliveira is a good matchup for him. If you're Conor,
of the people he could face,
he's the one.
He's the one who maybe...
He's the most beatable. But I really think that there's a... Conor McGregor has been choked out, submitted, and I would think there's a high likelihood that Charles Oliveira can take his back and fucking strangle him too.
Yep.
So, I mean, if he can do it to Poirier...
He can do it to Conor.
Right?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So, come on. So, everybody... Dude, I don't know what it is about Oliveira, but nobody wants to give this dude respect. Like, he's a fucking animal, but even I'm like, yeah, but... And I'm like, why am I saying that? Like, I mean, it's possible, but realistically, like, Charles Oliveira is just... in his fucking prime. He's in the perfect spot. He's slick. He's powerful. He's tenured, experienced. Yeah. Like, how many wins and losses? Like, from
his point of view as well, that Conor fight's going to be money, and quite likely, on all recent evidence, easy money.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you're Oliveira, you're like, yeah, fucking please.
Of course, yeah.
Please. Do you want to fight like fucking a Gaethje or a Chandler or do you want to fight Conor McGregor? You want Conor McGregor or Poirier, whatever. You'd rather have Conor any day.
Wait, have they just announced that?
What's that?
Oliveira, Gaethje.
Yeah, they announced it. Yeah, they announced that. Oof, we'll get to that. We will get to that because that is a juicy one. That's a juicy one. But the thing is, just to go into, I can't resist, just to go into a little bit, is that Oliveira's jiu-jitsu, man, he is so fucking nasty with submissions. First of all, his stand-up, way underrated, as we saw in the Michael Chandler fight. But, like, the way he submitted Poirier, I'm just like, oh, damn. Like, that's what he does. And then you think back to, was it Kevin Lee?
Yeah.
Caught him with a guillotine or something like that. I guess he's got the most submission wins in UFC history. Man, if you get wrapped up with that guy, you got problems. He's like almost Khabib-like in his application of submissions. Khabib was the wrestler, ground and pound guy. But
he's just
Oliveira's got the most submissions in UFC history. Like, that dude, if he wraps you up, you're fucked.
Yeah, you got problems.
Yeah. But anyway, all right, let's hit up the rest of this card and then we'll...
Wait, let's jump back now because we were talking about... before the podcast, we were talking about next fights for Colby and how much fun that could be.
Yeah. All right, yeah, that's a good call.
So
let's start with that.
He called out Poirier. So, awesome scenario. Either way is awesome. Colby drops down to 155. Let's say beats Poirier. Instant title shot. Poirier moves up to 170. He beats Colby. Boom. Instant title shot.
Yeah.
So you're setting up an amazing fight either way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Colby Covington and Dustin Poirier is good business on either side. Because if Colby gets that win... Like, Dustin Poirier, especially after the Conor fights, is so well known now.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be a superstar when he comes back to fight, as it showed when he fought Oliveira, because that was a huge fight. Like, everybody watched that shit. You get the Conor rub a little bit, and then you hit another level, right? So, in that sense, it's great for both of them, because if Poirier wins, then Colby's ranked number 1 in the division. He would immediately be a title threat to Usman. And then, that would be a crazy fight. I mean, Dustin Poirier and Kamaru Usman... There's a size thing,
small.
But the thing is, everybody says that Dustin Poirier is huge. Even Colby Covington said it. He said Dustin Poirier is bigger than him. That's what Colby said like today. So maybe we're all underrating Poirier's size.
I don't know though.
And he talked a lot about the weight cut too. How the weight cut was brutal.
Usman's also huge for his weight class.
Usman, dude, like Usman doesn't even make sense. Like his proportions, his body, just doesn't even make sense. Rock. Yeah, absolute fucking stud. So, listen, everybody's got problems. I think the only real threat to Usman is Khamzat right now. Because I also think he's within striking distance. If he beats Gilbert Burns, he's so popular.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a fucking star, right? Like, dude, he got millions of views on fucking, like, on interviews and shit from being at this fight. Like, he's that level. He's, like, in the Middle East and in Sweden and places. Like, he's fucking huge. Khamzat Chimaev is really popular. And if he beats Gilbert Burns, I feel like the UFC kind of knows that he's going to beat Gilbert Burns. Everybody seems to know he's going to beat Gilbert Burns.
Is he going to beat Gilbert Burns? Gilbert Burns was one terrible decision away from winning the title, where he decided to rub his arsehole on the canvas instead of chasing the knockout.
Yeah. But did you see, like, Yeah, but have you heard about Darren Till training with Chimaev now?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about this dude. Like, everybody is like, this guy is a fucking freak. And if you look at how he fights people and how he destroys people, and then the worst part is Leon Edwards is just, we're not even talking about him. I'm literally in it, right? For whatever reason, I cannot figure out what the deal with Leon Edwards is and why people just keep and I'm sitting here completely forgetting that he's like on this fucking run. And
Covington robbed him of his momentum towards the title shot. It was a nightmare.
And then maybe you also got to think that Usman beat him already. It was back in the day or whatever, but for whatever, that's there too. So, but anyway, point is fucking Leon Edwards. But point is like if Khamzat beats Gilbert, isn't Gilbert the number 1 or number 2 contender? Is Leon above him in the rankings?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, let's take a look and see.
So I think he's still number 2,
but that's the most interesting fight in the division because he's already beat everybody in the top 10 or in the top 5, including Leon Edwards. But so Khamzat fighting, I know he's 1 or 2.
Colby's 1, Gilbert's 2, Leon's 3.
So, right. Okay, so Gilbert's ranked above Leon Edwards.
Yep.
Really? Like, really? I'm actually quite surprised. How?
I don't even know. Who did he even fight last?
Yeah. Pull up Gilbert Burns' record.
Sick.
Wonder Boy? Well, it was Wonder Boy. I think he beat Wonder Boy before. We're going off on a few tangents, but I've had a few beers, so typical
Sunday afternoon.
Typical Sunday. But man, I think if Khamzat gets the win over Gilbert Burns, he's in the number 2. I'm just saying straight up, and I'm not even opposed to it really. Do you think Chimaev gets the bump over Leon Edwards if?
Yeah,
he beats Gilbert Burns.
Because Leon Edwards just has zero luck.
What is that? What is the thing with Leon Edwards? Why is he so underrated and overlooked?
So I genuinely think
he's got an interesting story.
Yeah, he's got a great story, but I think genuinely, like, he was supposed to have his big fight, like, to get in that title shot. Yeah,
COVID.
Yeah, and COVID hit, and like a lot of the other fighters could still travel. A lot of the other fighters could still get time in front of the camera. Edwards couldn't leave the UK. So, you know, when they were doing like those fight nights at Fight Islands and stuff like that, like, people got a lot of shine from those, and he just never got his. And everyone's like, who? What?
Yeah, and it was already booked. And if he had beaten Woodley then, I think that was right after Woodley lost to Usman. The next fight. So he would have gone right to being number 1. So if it wasn't for COVID, Leon Edwards definitely would have fought for a title already. There's no question.
Yeah.
Because he probably would have beat Woodley. Probably like... Now we know, we look back and Woodley's declined, like 80% chance that Leon Edwards beats Woodley at that point and becomes the number 1 contender. But then Gilbert Burns slid in there. Yeah, interesting.
It was Wonder Boy he beat as well.
Yeah, and who before that? I can't believe he's still above Leon Edwards.
No, I think the UFC haven't updated.
But when he fought at 170,
Rafael Lovato.
Yeah, but who?
No, it's a grappling fight. No, lost to Usman.
Yeah, go before that. Let's see his record at 170. Because I think Leon Edwards should be ranked above Gilbert Burns. Keep going down. He beat Maya before that. Keep going down. Jake Shields.
No, a load of those would say grappling because he does a lot of the submission on the ground. Gunnar Nelson, Alexei.
I mean, Gilbert Burns is a motherfucker. He's on a run too. He's on a run. Other than Usman, which everybody's struggled with. And even then, he hurt Usman in that fight. But the point is, I think if Khamzat beats him, either way, whatever. We'll move on. It's going to be Khamzat or it's going to be Leon Edwards. Maybe one then the other. Who knows? But the timing with Khamzat, he presents a way more interesting challenge than Leon Edwards. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not that Leon Edwards deserves it more. But Khamzat presents a more interesting challenge because he's super popular. They haven't fought already, and et cetera, et cetera. And, that'll be an interesting one. Let's go through the next event, the next card. Whatever, I think we hit most of the fights. There were some good fights on this card, though. The Yan Xiaonan fight, she fought, Rodriguez, right? Marina Rodriguez or whatever. That was a damn good fight. I thought that was fight of the night, actually.
Bryce Mitchell.
Bryce Mitchell, thank you. Let's talk about Bryce Mitchell. My redneck, my hillbilly brother, Bryce Mitchell. If you listen to this podcast and you don't know, I'm from West Virginia. That is some rural-ass hillbilly shit. So Bryce Mitchell rocking his camo trunks. I'm going to get some Bryce Mitchell trunks. I'm decided right now. I'm going to order the fight kit for him.
Bizarrely,
Thug Nasty, dude. The Arkansas fucking hillbilly, man. I love it.
because I knew we were talking about him today, I was trying to find out why he wore combo pants, because like, oh, he's the ex-army or something like that. No, he just likes them.
Did you watch the embedded stuff with him or any of the pre-fight stuff with him? I mean, you got to watch it because it'll make you love him more. Dude, he is a Arkansas redneck. Like, he works out on his farm. He has a farm, chickens, cows, works all day. He has like bales of hay that he clean and presses and shit to work out. And then the crazy thing is, like, first of all, Bryce Mitchell fucks up everybody on the ground. Bryce Mitchell is a GF Team guy, and my previous affiliation was GF Team. My old coach, Italo Lins, trains with Rolly Delgado, and he goes out to GF Team Arkansas all the time. There's a few of the Brazilians that used to work with me in Singapore who work at GF Team Arkansas.
Yeah.
And including Mateos, who used to work at the gym, and Italo, who worked at the gym. They go back and forth there, and Rolly is their head coach, and they all train together. And this motherfucker, Bryce Mitchell, takes down everybody. He's got one of the only twister submissions in the UFC history. Have you seen Bryce Mitchell's twister?
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's ridiculous. Him and the Korean Zombie have the two twisters in the UFC. And when you look at Edson Barboza and you see him next to Bryce Mitchell, it looks ridiculous. Edson, can you do me a favor and pull up a face-off, the shirtless face-off of Barboza standing next to Bryce Mitchell? Okay. Barboza was a top 5 lightweight. Huge. He fought Khabib Nurmagomedov. He has knockouts over some of the best in the lightweight division. A big, strong, jacked, like...
He fought Nurmagomedov to similar results.
Yeah, to similar. That's what I'm saying. Khabib, look at Khabib and look at Bryce Mitchell. Put them next to each other with their shirts off.
Yeah.
And then look at what they both did to Edson Barboza. And that tells you how fucking good Bryce Mitchell is. But they did a face-off with their shirts off next to each other. And, I mean, they looked like they don't even belong in the same weight class.
I can't get them next to each other.
You can't find a face-off? There's one right there, right? Is that one in the middle?
No, that's Giga.
Oh, shit. Anyway. Whatever. Point is, Edson looked huge. He looked ripped. He looked strong. And Bryce is this, like, kind of thin, wiry, strong dude. And he just ragdolled him like nobody but like Khabib has.
Yeah.
His jiu-jitsu is nasty. He's undefeated. He's a little redneck. He lifts his bales of hay for workouts and shit, and he works out on his farm. And, like, he's just awesome. And he has a rap album coming out. Yeah, he does. He has a rap album coming out. Thug Nasty, man, listen, this guy's a contender. If you do that to Edson Barboza in the featherweight division, you're a contender.
I'm just trying to find the scorecard because I scored it.
It was like 26, 30, and 20. I think there was a 25, and then there was a 27 or something like that, 30, 27. But he had a few 10-8s.
Yeah, I scored it 9-8, 10-8, 10-8. I thought it was that dominant.
Yeah.
That, there was no way. But
and by the way, Edson Barboza is damn explosive. That guy can stuff some takedowns.
Yeah.
But Bryce Mitchell just went through. Can you pull up Bryce Mitchell's record? I mean, this is a real, legitimate contender. And one of my favorite fighters now. Dude, you got to go watch the embeddeds and shit that he did so you can see, like, how he lives his life. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He is like Americana, hardcore, like just a little southern hillbilly redneck dude living on his farm, raising his goats and shit, and then fucking people up. Like,
on a weekend, I fight some UFC.
He's like Rocky Balboa in the 4th Rocky movie, where he goes to Russia and he trains in the cabin and shit like that. That's what he does. Like, that's how he is.
All right, I got his record.
Yeah, that's his record. Really fun, interesting personality, totally different than most people.
He's on a 10.
Andre Fili, he's undefeated, 14-0. Edson Barboza, Andre Fili, who's legit. Charles Rosa's legit. Twister, that was the one where he got his twister. I
like how he even says
I thought he was undefeated.
In place of submission.
I thought he was undefeated.
Exhibition.
Oh.
So it won't count, I guess.
Oh, it's Ultimate Fighter thing.
Yeah.
It's it's non-professional, or it's off. It's not exhibition, whatever. Interesting. But yeah, dude. So, I mean, Bryce Mitchell is fucking legit. And a lot of those are submissions. And he's able to take down Edson. Took a year off. He's young. He's hungry. I like this dude.
Yeah, he did get... one of the judges gave him 10-9, 10-8, 10-8. And the other was 10-9, 10-8, 10-9. And then the other one straight 10-9s. But yeah.
And doing that to Edson Barboza is no
crazy.
fucking joke. Like, Edson Barboza is one of the most seasoned lightweight fighters in the UFC. And went through his kicks, dropped him, by the way, with his fucking hands in the first round. threw that straight down the pipe, dropped him, jumped on him, swarmed him.
Impressive.
Nasty jiu-jitsu, dude. He's nasty. I love it. Love that dude. All right, dude. Let's round out the round card. Let's round out the main card here, and then we'll move on to Islam Makhachev in last week's fights.
Kevin Holland.
Kevin Holland.
Other cowboy.
Yeah. That was a good fight. Kevin Holland looked good. He looked pretty skinny, though, man.
Yeah.
Like, he looked really thin.
But carried the power.
Yeah, carried the power.
So,
good fight for him. I was glad to see him win. That first round looked a little rough.
Yeah.
Cowboy had good timing in the first round. But then I think Kevin Holland just figured him out.
I think his corner said to him, like, stop messing around, would you?
Yeah.
Like,
he wasn't talking, though, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I didn't hear him talk the whole fight.
Did you see the thumbs up, though, at the end of the first? I was brilliant. Just like, I'm fine.
I thought he was fucked, and then I realized that his arm was still in.
Yeah.
And he was actually safe from the choke. Good, interesting introduction into the welterweight division. He's a interesting little wild card that division has now. Clever
call out as well.
He was already top. What was he ranked? Like at one point, he was ranked 7 or 8 in the middleweight division, right?
Yeah.
Like once he knocked out Jacare and won 5 fights in the middleweight division in 2020 or whatever it was. Had a little bit of a rough run there, but looking good. He's a really interesting addition to the welterweight division for sure. But I can see him being like top 10 immediately.
Yeah. Well, he called out Cowboy Cerrone at the end of the fight, which I think is actually a good call out for him because one, it's a bit like that could headline a fight night easily or be co-main because it's people are watching
sure.
Both of the fighters like him. He's probably going to win it as well, so he gets the rub.
And 3, then he's Cowboy versus Cowboy in a row. Both the Cowboys. Although
the Cowboy killer.
Although Cerrone beat the Brazilian Cowboy already, so USA won Brazil. I'm just kidding.
Anyway. Then we had Sergey Spivak, Greg Hardy.
Oh yeah. The takedown, beatdown. Greg Hardy looked good for like a minute.
Yeah, Greg Hardy looks great until someone takes him to the floor, and then he's like, what? Yeah.
I mean, you just can't close that gap. I don't care how athletic you are.
He needs...
Unless you're Francis Ngannou, and then you can probably close that gap.
Like, he needs cutting to the LFC or something like that, like a lower division.
But you know what is weird, actually? I just mentioned Francis Ngannou. What is it about Francis Ngannou where he can, like, become UFC level in 5 years and then fight for a world championship in 7, but then a guy... Like Hardy who came out of the NFL, who's one of the most athletic, well-trained from when he was young. Like, he should be able to pick up everything as quick. Like, what is it that makes Francis so different?
I'll tell you what makes him different, because while Greg Hardy was playing in the NFL and getting all that NFL money, Francis Ngannou was fucking shoveling sand into a bag. Yeah, hunger has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, the sense of urgency is different when he's doing this because he wants to do it, and I'm sure he's motivated, but
he's not shoveling sand.
He's not motivated like, oh, my entire lifestyle will change forever if I. Yeah, that's fucking true, dude. What a crazy story, Francis Ngannou. And that went. I don't even know if we mentioned that.
I don't think
we had that break for a while over a New Year's, and I had COVID and stuff, and I think it was right when I had COVID around that time. But yeah, I mean, the way he was able to utilize his wrestling against Cyril Gane.
Win the fight. Utilize his wrestling, the way he was somehow able to learn wrestling in 5 weeks.
For him to win a fight against a kickboxer in a wrestling match is just fucking crazy. It doesn't even make sense.
I guarantee you one thing, Gane's camp had definitely not planned for that.
No, and that's the thing that I'm about to say. Like, what fight intelligence, what fight IQ to be able to make that adjustment and to have confidence that you can actually implement that game plan. Like, I feel like if I'm Francis and I couldn't knock him out and my knee's fucked and it's just not going, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna switch to wrestling. Which did his corner advise him to do that, or did he just pick up that read and go? I don't recall any point his corner being like, we're switching it up. Yeah. We're gonna fucking take him down.
Yeah,
I don't recall that happening. And like when it started happening, and then he found it, and then I think he just made that adjustment, and he's like, "Oh, I can take this dude down."
Oh, he's worse at wrestling than me. Yeah. This never happens.
Which is crazy because his footwork is usually so good that you would think just by like Cyril Gane's distance management, he would be able to mitigate most of the takedown problems because he's so long, and Francis is a fucking chaotic bomber with power, right? But he was able to control him with the striking for the first 2 rounds. And then once Francis found that takedown, he's like, oh, this wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I can just take this French kickboxer down.
Do you think Gane trained a single takedown defense in his camp?
I mean, I'm sure he was still like doing his wrestling, like whatever his thing. But I definitely don't think there was any scenario in his mind where he's like, oh, he's just going to lift me over his head multiple times and slam me on my French ass and then win the title.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fucking crazy. We're going off on tangents, bro. But
because we've not done a card for so long.
We got a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
And we haven't even hit the last week's fight. Shall we move on to that? There were some good fights on the undercard, too. I watched the whole undercard, actually. Today I was able to do it, much to my wife's chagrin. She was like,
well, she's teaching the kids class.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
She's like, will you come help me? And I like roll my eye. Like, I have to go do my job. Like, I'm literally sitting at the desk, right? Like, fucking watching these fights. And then Charmaine's like, Luke, because her ankle's horrifically injured. She's perpetually injured lately. I think she fucked up a ligament in her ankle. One of our students had her in like an ankle lock type position and a heel hook, something, holding onto the ankle. And Charmaine tried to turn and kick out. And right when she turned to kick out, he bellied down. And then it was just like, and her ankle popped and she couldn't walk for like 2 weeks. And then, so she's been like stuck in the house and she can't train and she's dealing with all of this shit. And so she can't demonstrate any of the moves in class. So she comes over and she taps on my shoulder and she's like, Luke, will you come demonstrate the technique? And I like roll my eyes at her. I'm such an asshole. I'm like, oh, I've got a podcast later. I need to watch these fight. I need to watch these fight. And she's like, this is your actual job, idiot. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I'll be there in a second. I'll be there in a second.
Yeah,
I'm coming right now. I just was like, first I was offended, and I'm like, yeah, I should probably go help you. But yeah, so I was able to catch a lot of the early prelims because I was neglecting my work.
Can we go through them?
Let's go to the last week's, not
last
the prelims. Yeah, fuck the prelims.
So, well, the only fight I watched of last week's card was the Islam Makhachev Bobby Green fight, where we learned absolutely nothing.
Which seems to be the case with Islam over and over again.
Yep. Bobby Green being that late replacement as well. Like, fair play for him for taking the fight, but it was a mismatch.
He was a fish out of water.
Yeah.
A fish out of water. Which is crazy, because I definitely thought Islam was going to win. And it's a stylistic issue as well. Like, that level of wrestling is just next level. If you're not like the top 5 in the division, you're not beating Islam. No. Like, unless you're the Martinez, the one guy who one-punched him the one time.
Yeah.
So you can, but unlikely. And yeah, it was just a clean sweep, man. It was a domination. It was, by the way, Team Khabib is just Umar Nurmagomedov. We didn't talk about Umar. Did you watch Umar?
I didn't see it.
That motherfucker has some of the best kicks I've ever seen in my life. He's a Team Khabib guy. He kicks like Adesanya. He does a lead leg question mark kick, which if you don't know, guys, if you don't know what a lead leg question mark kick and the level of difficulty of a rear leg question mark kick, it's like night and day. I'm playing Elden Ring right now.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you're trying to do a lead leg question mark kick, that's like some Elden Ring shit. That's like difficulty. You got to pull your knee up high and somehow to get it slap over the shoulder when you're like within hand reaching distance of somebody. Right? Like, I have one leg forward when I'm in my fight stance, and you have one leg forward when you're in your fight stance. And if I'm close enough to kick you with my front leg, I'm basically close enough to touch you with my lead hand.
Yeah.
So to be able to pull your knee straight up the center line and slap your fucking kick around over the lead shoulder of somebody requires some crazy flexibility and some crazy dexterity. And like, this Dagestani wrestler has that kind of like hip dexterity and that kind of kicking skill. So this is Khabib's cousin.
Yeah, what you're describing here is Khabib with a fucking kicking game.
With a ridiculous kicking game.
I'm not fighting.
This is one of the most underrated aspects of these Dagestani fighters. Like
14-0 as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you look at somebody like Zabit, and you look at Umar Nurmagomedov, and you look at that king of kung fu guy, and if you look at some of these Dagestani guys or the Koreshkov, the Russian guy who just broke 5 ribs of the guy in Bellator. Did you see that turning back kick? There was a turning back kick. I think his name is Koreshkov in Bellator. He threw a spinning back kick that literally broke 5 ribs and punctured a dude's lung. Like, these motherfucking Russians, these Dagestani guys, they have some ridiculously explosive kicks. Like fucking what's his name will throw Zabit Magomed Sharipov will throw the Anthony Showtime Pettis kick off the fucking cage wall. This motherfucker's crazy.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have ridiculously kicking game. This is like one of the most robust kicking regions in the world. Like, if you're gonna put top 3, it's Thailand, it's the Netherlands, Holland, the Dutch style kickboxing, and then it's Russia. They got some crazy kicks. And what was the other? You remember the old Bellator champion Shlemenko? Remember him? He was another one who had some crazy kicks, spinning back kicks, knocked out a bunch of people. Tito Ortiz choked him out one time in Bellator, but he was like 48-2 or 48-1 or something. So these guys have incredible talent. And to think of like a Nurmagomedov with their wrestling to be able to strike like that and kick like that, what the fuck, dude? How are you going to fight these guys? And then there was one other Team Khabib guy on the main card. Can
he lost,
you find
though,
it?
didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he lost a pretty close decision to Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott, who fought for the title, beat him, and I think it was a pretty close split decision. But he's another Team Khabib guy. Khabib apparently was pissed off because he reached in the glove and grabbed him. And then in the post-fight press conference, Dana White said, like, oh, I talked to Khabib, but he seemed like he was really pissed off today. I don't know why he's in such a bad mood. And then one of the press guys was like, oh, was it because Tim Elliott was grabbing in his fighter's glove? And he's like, yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it's that.
Because that was the only Team Khabib guy that's like ever lost. That's like ever lost, and it was a split decision. And you can see Khabib in the corner when they showed the foul, being like, dude, his head looked like it was about to explode as he's yelling at the referee because he was hooking the glove.
That's what they say. The one thing that could possibly bring him back is if like one of his fighters lost and there was bad blood. Khabib
what if Gaethje beats him? Right? And Gaethje, right? Because Gaethje and Khabib just fought, and it was all nice and polite. What if Gaethje fights Islam, knocks out Islam, and goes Colby Covington on Khabib to try to get him out? Like, and he just fucking starts talking mad shit.
Yep.
Or Conor McGregor knocks out Islam. This is the real one, right? What if in some fucking fantasy world they slide Conor in to fight Oliveira, which might fucking happen.
Might well happen.
He starches,
Oliveira
gets him out in the first round before it can extend too far and Oliveira's trickiness can catch him, right?
Yep.
Islam is already the number one contender. Conor McGregor goes on that fight and he starts calling Islam a pussy and starts talking about the fight on the cage or whatever, and then he fucking knocks out Islam. And he's like, Khabib.
Yeah.
Then we're dealing with like the Thrilla in Manila type shit, dude. We're dealing with like Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali.
Ever?
That is the potential biggest fight to ever exist.
Now, at this moment in time, no Russian person will be able to fly anywhere to watch it, so they better give it a few months.
Oh, and could you imagine, especially with the war going on? Dude, like, you know, because the thing that makes like that 60s generation of the heavyweight boxing division so amazing is it's like Muhammad Ali, who had all of these issues with the Vietnam War, and then he comes back after years of being suspended and loses to Joe Frazier. And at that point, he was the youngest champion. He came up, took time off, and then became this whole political thing about black versus white, and Joe Frazier was Uncle Tom, and it had this fucking like political and social dynamic that when those fights happened, like that was a fucking event. And like it was like that a little bit with Khabib and Conor.
Yeah, the first time.
But if some shit happened, if Conor knocked out Islam, that would, and then Khabib comes back, that is like legendary shit. That's like once in a generation type fucking shit. In the middle of a war, like,
it'd be like
with Conor talking shit, like, oh my God.
It'd be like Rocky IV if, you know, Rocky was Irish and into cocaine and steroids.
Yeah, exactly. But then you know what I saw, which is also kind of hilarious? Did you ever see the video of Conor McGregor and Putin? When they met?
When he puts his hand on him.
When he puts his arm on him, and then you see the security look over at him, and then Conor has this moment where he's like, I might die right now. And then he puts his hand right next to his waist, and he's like, peace out. What's up, camera? Yeah. But honestly, man, the potential for that would be crazy. I don't think Conor could beat Islam, especially now.
I don't think it happens, but I hope it happens.
I mean, that's kind of like if you wish for like once in a lifetime lightning to strike. Dude.
I mean,
even Conor versus Islam, because of that whole narrative.
Yeah.
That alone. So we're skipping over that, but that alone could be fucking world-ending shit. Like, that is like...
Unfortunately, I've wasted...
God-level threat, right? Like from One Punch Man.
I've wasted all my fighting wishes, obviously, on, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, though, so... None of them.
And if you didn't get enough from that, you could have wasted it all on Khabib and Tony Ferguson.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I've wasted a lot on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the boxing gods are particularly cruel in this scenario, but we've missed a few MMA matches that would have been legendary. I mean, I don't even if you want to know, but if you want to talk about like Ukraine and all the fighters that are, I mean, you got three of the best world champions currently in boxing fighting in a war in Ukraine. You see the videos of both the Klitschko's. One of the Klitschko's, I think it's Vitaly, is the mayor of Kyiv.
Did you see his interview?
Yeah.
Well, this is his interview. He's like, what happened last night? Oh, I killed 6 people.
I do. You know what? He's probably not wrong because he's in charge of things.
Yeah.
He's in charge of shit. And these guys, so you got both of the Klitschkos, like two of the greatest fucking heavyweights ever. You've got Lomachenko, who's also Ukrainian. You've got, like, this is a crazy situation. You've got
the guy who beat Joshua.
Usyk. Usyk is there. Like, Lomachenko's Ukrainian, right?
Maybe.
Can you double check?
Yeah.
So I don't sound like a fucking idiot. I'm pretty sure he's Ukrainian. I'm like 99% sure, but I've had a few beers, so my brain is, and someone's going to scream into he's not fucking way. He's Ukrainian, I'm certain.
Ukrainian.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Just had to be sure. I got a little bit of panic in the back of my mind. I was like, I don't want to be an insensitive
They said
prick.
something insane like, oh God, I'm not good with numbers, but like over 600,000 people have returned to the country to take up arms.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
You know, I mean, it's an existential threat, right? And when you have, I mean, I even feel like, I don't know how much credence I actually put into this, but I have moments of like guilt almost, where like I'm just like living my life here and I'm watching dumb fucking YouTube videos doing stupid shit, and then you really think about like shit that's going on in other parts of the world, and it's to a certain extent of roll of the dice. You really have to be grateful. Like,
yeah,
COVID very quickly is out of people's minds because there's a fucking war going on. It just puts things into perspective a little differently, right? And it affects every community. Did you see the Ukrainian girl today in the fights who won?
I didn't see it, but
it was a pretty crazy fight. And there was a lot of beef between those two girls. Like, they were talking mad shit. They were former training partners and stuff. And then obviously the war in Ukraine started, and she's going over there and fighting. And you can imagine like the emotional weight on her shoulders, like to lose in that scenario would just be devastating. And there was tons of support. And just to give the other perspective a little bit, I kind of appreciated that there were a lot of Russian fighters who did well. And I'm not saying that like you know, if you're fucking like Russia, like if your country just goes in and starts bombing people to try to take their country, you're not in the right. But the Russian government is not the Russian people.
Yeah.
And the Russians that are fighting also were like going through some shit that they had no fucking say in, and that they're also probably like in this public light, and they started booing one of them. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the one that lost.
Yeah.
He did some interview, and he didn't say anything like controversial or anything, but he was like, thank you, Russia, thank you this, thank you. And the crowd started booing him. And he didn't do anything, but at least it's complicated, right?
Yeah, but at least none of them were like waving the Russian flag around the ring, going like,
and ultimately,
hey, Ukraine.
I'm on team fighter, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in my community and you're a martial artist and you're fighting in the UFC, or I know you, I have Russians that train at my gym. And I have a Russian that trains at my gym that's pro-Russian. I teach her private lessons 3 times a week.
Yeah.
She's from one of the break-off regions that Putin declared independent. And she's like, yeah, like 90% of the people there are ethnic Russians and speak Russian. And she's my age, so her parents grew up in the Soviet Union. And when they grew up in that same region, they were part of Russia then. And so that it's an interesting perspective to me. And I don't take a side. I'm not political about it. I'm just on team martial arts.
Yeah.
And like, I want the Russians who are fighting in the UFC, I don't want them to not be able to work if they don't have anything to do with it and they don't have an opinion on it. But I'm also I'm also in support of a country defending itself from people who are trying to fucking take their shit. So like,
yeah, but if you think like, say Khabib came out today and was like, fuck Putin, fuck the war, this is awful, this shouldn't be happening. What do people think is going to happen to him and his family when he gets back?
And what if he came back and he's like, yeah, Russia, awesome, fuck you, Ukraine. Like, it's fucking political suicide either way.
Yep.
And he lives in America, and he, you know what I mean? And he, like, and for so many of these people, like, they don't give a fuck in the sense that, like, they don't have a dog in the race. Like, they're trying to live their life, and then all of a sudden this world event is upon them, and they're dragged in on it.
Yeah.
And you just do your best. And, like, if you're Russian, you probably support your country. But maybe you don't support everything they do, but you're still proud and Russian, right? And you're just in this weird spot where you're like, all of a sudden the world events have defined your relationship with your country in a way that you're probably not super comfortable with, but what can you say? If you dissent, then you know where you might end up. The protesters who got arrested for protesting in Moscow.
Yeah, you don't protest in Russia at the best of times. You certainly don't protest the war when you're in one.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a fucking crazy situation. And it seems like, you know, I remember thinking at the end of 2020 and 2021, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like COVID's going to get better. The world's going to start to get better. Boom, we're coming out of the pandemic. Here's a war. You thought a global pandemic was the fucking tip of the iceberg, the tip of the spear?
Yep.
Have a fucking war on top, baby.
You know, we've not had for a
It's
long
like-
time a major European war. Oh, good, let's have one of those.
Yeah, we haven't had a good old European white-on-white war in a while. Like,
long
I
time.
keep seeing these news articles that just keep talking about the fact that it's like white people fighting white people, and I'm just like, first of all, war in Europe is as classic as fucking as it comes, and second of all, like, what is that? Why is that even the narrative? Like, I just don't even know what the world is coming to. Like,
Yeah, it's very strange, and as well, like, you know, the norm is actually Europe constantly being at war.
Exactly.
If you look through
That is- if you look through- that's the normal.
The abnormality
Standard.
is what's just happened where we've not had a war
Exactly.
since 1945. That's the weird bit.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, you still had like the Cold War, and you still had the Berlin Wall, and that was within our lifetimes. That shit still existed, but you know, the short-term memory of the younger generation is so fickle, and you forget that global calamity was less than 100 years ago. Slaves, basically, Jim Crow, unequal rights. That shit was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Okay, 20 years before that, you had the greatest global calamity to ever happen to human and Earth civilization with nuclear power. That's all within 100 years, you people. How easily you forget. Also, the Spanish flu, go back a little further, World War I. We can keep going. This shit happens all the time. Like,
Somewhere there must have been like someone who turned 18 on like 31st of December, going from the 1800s into the 1900s. Like, and he must have been like, oh, you know, brand new century. This is going to be amazing. Think of all the good times ahead. And then no, World War One, Spanish flu, World War Two. Shit.
oh yeah. I mean, you can talk about the stock market crash. You can.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we can go. We can do this game forever. Okay, Cuban Missile Crisis. We can keep going.
Just say, oh,
Have a little perspective.
That Titanic looks good, doesn't it? That should go on that.
Appreciate the fact that you live in a mostly risk-free world.
Yep.
You know, and then pray for the people of Ukraine and Russia who are in this situation. By the way, we're team martial arts here, so everybody, just hang on. Hang on. We're gonna get through this, Jake. We're gonna get through this, bro.
We're through COVID now. That's gone. So we've just got this next one to get to. It's fine. It's going to be great fun.
Well,
2023
You know
is
what?
going to be.
I say bring back Trump. Let's do this whole thing with Trump. Let's do this. I want a Russian war with Trump on the. No, I don't.
No, you
I'm
don't.
talking shit, everybody. Could you imagine if Trump had won and then invade? If you look at how his response is to this situation in Ukraine, could you imagine if that guy? Listen, and I'm not against Republicans. I'm not against conservatives. My family was like that. Most of them. Some of them were liberals. But I've seen it, and they're good people, and I get it. And I get conservative politics. You need that. They balance each other out. The left can go off the rails just as easily as the right. Okay? You need the countermeasures to create centrists where you can get shit done in a common sense type of way.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if Donald Trump saying what he's saying now was the fucking president? How crazy this would be. You're dealing with the U.S., Russia, and China in agreement on something like this. Can you imagine what that world would look like?
It'd be insane.
I mean, we're going off the rails here a bit, but wow, that would have been so crazy.
Yeah. I can't wait till 2024 just because
Yeah.
he's funny.
Yeah. All right, dude, I got to pee, and then we'll finish up that second card. Is that cool?
All good.
right, I'm going to clap
All
real
good.
quick. And we are back. All right. So one thing we haven't talked about yet is One Championship, which is coming back next weekend. Actually, one over the next month is pretty sick.
Yeah, they got the lights out card. They got the 1X card.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
whenever anything has got an X in it, you know that's going to
It's
be good.
legit. That's how you know it's legit. And if you are curious, we are going to be doing a live podcast for the 1X. So when Road Tank fights Demetrius Johnson, that whole card is sick. It's going to be me. It's going to be former One Championship fighter Stephen Langdown and Uncle Ron Ung, coach at Stronghold MMA, and the former Singapore champion, lightweight champion. So and of course Jake, the producer, will be in the house. So we're gonna do a live stream for that. Me and Steven are probably gonna be drinking. Ron's gonna sit here wishing he was drinking the whole time, and then talk about Donald Trump for like an hour. As these podcasts always tend to go, all he's talked about to me is like woke shit and Biden, and Uncle Ron does not shut up about American politics. It's all I get from this dude. So if you're looking for a little MAGA love and you're looking for some fight breakdowns, the Stronghold podcast is your place.
Sprinkling of conspiracy theory on there as well.
then if you are one of the people that are looking for that, then we are here to
We are
provide
right
for
here
you for free. So come listen to that. That'll be fun. You know how it is when Steven, Ron, and I are on the podcast. We've done 2 that literally were banned.
Yep.
That happened twice.
Don't know why we wasted our time doing
It happened
it.
with Ron and Steven 2 times. I could not put the podcast up because it was so heinous. So, if that's what you're into, check that one out. Otherwise, dude, let's break down the one next week. So, One Championship it's in Singapore next weekend.
Friday.
Oh, Friday. Nice. Friday. All right. Can you read out the card?
Okay, so top of the card, we got Le versus Tonen. That's going to be interesting.
So Ton Lee, who just knocked out Martin Nguyen for the title, is fighting Gary Tonin. I mean, this is as grappler striker as it gets.
Yep.
Ton Lee's Instagram is pretty fun. If you watch him, he can do like all the spinning kicks, and he trains in the gi sometimes. And he was a traditional MMA fighter. He's had mixed results against really, really good grapplers. But his striking is nasty. But I feel like this is all on Gary Tonin.
Yeah, if Tonin is not going to stand and strike with him, he's going to go in, wrestle him, and then try.
The thing is, though, Tonin has been willing to strike more than like a normal dude who's a normal grappler who's afraid to strike.
Yeah.
Like, he looks confident enough to do it enough.
His striking's not terrible, but
he's not
also
like Matt Hughes, where he just like is always going to bull rush it every time you get near him, or Ben Askren or something like that. Like, he's competent enough on the feet that he's able to keep it there, but he does engage in that, and you wonder, like, he's smart though. He's not.
Shouldn't this time.
Shouldn't.
This time, just do your grappling, Gary.
He shouldn't.
That'll be what works.
I actually think Martin Nguyen is a more interesting matchup for Tonin because he's a jiu-jitsu black belt and he's got good grappling. He tapped out Christian Lee, or didn't tap him out. Did he? Did he tap out Christian?
I can't remember.
He beat him twice. I can't remember what happened in the first fight. The second fight, he beat him by decision. And but my point is Martin Nguyen's grappling is on the surface better than Ton Lee's. But Ton Lee's the champ, and Gary Tonin deserves it. He's been brutal. He's been dominating. Excuse me, since he's been in one. And one of the DDS guys, the Danaher Death Squad guys, might end up with a championship. But it's definitely the biggest fight of Gary Tonin's career. Yeah. For sure, it's the hardest fight.
He has a clear path to victory.
Yeah, for sure. And so does Ton. But the level that they are, it's like the middle areas where Gary Tonin shines, because obviously Ton is a better striker. Obviously Gary Tonin is the better submission guy, but Gary Tonin's also the better wrestler.
Yeah.
And he's a scrambler. And he can get into grappling situations other than just by shooting a double leg. He's got a lot of ways that he can get a hold of you. He can fucking scissor heel hook you. He can snap you down. He can double leg you. He's got really good wrestling. He can clinch you. He can pull guard.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of different ways that he can get to where he wants to be, and I don't think Tano has nearly as many ways to deal with that. So it's in the middle areas where I think he'll do well. But what do you think, man? If Gary Tonin gets a championship, I mean, what's in it for him? I mean, like, what's coming up next? He could fight Christian Lee, although Christian has his rematch with Akrayoun probably set already.
Yeah, I don't know who he's going to go to because that division's because Christian's tied up. There's not a lot going on.
Who's next? Can you pull up the featherweight division for one championship? Martin Nguyen is up there. He's probably 1 or 2 now because Ton took the belt from him. Yeah, let's throw that up there and see what we're dealing with.
Just find him. Where is he?
Lightweight. It should be Akrayoun's face.
No, but this is for the belt, is it not? Am I going crazy?
Yeah. I mean, it should just be the lightweight division. Wherever you see that, go up a little bit.
No, because lightweight's Ark and then Christian. And then
yeah, that's the division. Oh,
no, you
want the featherweight?
Ah, yeah, because it's at featherweight. That's why.
Yeah. So featherweight. Yeah. So who's under Gary Tonin in the featherweight rankings?
So you got Martin Nguyen. Oh God, I can never say
Martin Nguyen is number 1.
Yeah, Nguyen. Number 1 is Kim Jae-woong. Number 2 is Tonin. Martin's 3. Tankai.
Okay.
Tanley at the top.
And who's the 5th?
And Yoshiki Nakahara.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, well, I guess then if Tonin wins, he's going to fight Kim Jae-woong. So
yeah. Okay.
I mean, not an easy fight, but the math is simple on it.
And then lightweight, it's Akrayoun, Christian, and Nastyukin. Is he 3?
Dagi, Aoki, Yuri, and
so they don't even have Nastyukin on there. Okay.
No.
Interesting. But yeah, so anyway, this fight's going to be pretty sweet, man. And what's the co-main event here?
Lineker.
Lineker. Yeah, John Lineker. He's definitely top 5 in the world.
Yeah.
Definitely top 5.
He hits so hard.
He hits so hard and he goes to the body hard. Really good boxing, man.
So you got him versus...
Bibiano Fernandez. That is a damn good fight.
Good fight.
That is a damn good fight. If Bibiano beats Lineker, though, like, that dude's got to get more respect. Like, Bibiano is a motherfucker. He's been the champion for how many years in one? 5 years or something? He's been so long.
Yeah, so long I can't remember who was...
He lost one and then came back and won again. But Bibiano has been on the top for a long time. He's got to be in his late 30s, too. So timing seems right for John Lineker, but that's a banger. That's one of the best bantamweight fights. Wait, is it flyweight or bantam?
Bantam.
Yeah, one of the best bantamweight fights you're going to see outside of the UFC.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
definitely.
And then what's the third on the main there?
You got the Muay Thai World Championship, which is very hard to say Thai now.
Dude.
Oh, wait.
Prayan Chai and Lasiri. Oh, yeah, Prayan Chai and Lasiri. Yeah, so Lasiri is the guy that Jonathan Haggerty beat. Good, though, man. Good fight. Dude, the one Muay Thai and kickboxing is ridiculous.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. It's so good. It's the best shit you can get. If you're like a Muay Thai or kickboxing crackhead, like, that is the good shit.
Oh, yeah, that's
the pure shit.
Yep.
That's the shit you pay top dollar for. It's so good. It's the best outside of Thailand. And we got to get to the most philosophical question of the day. The Cain Velasquez situation.
So is the philosophical question, how big should his medal be?
His medal? His jail sentence, potentially.
Yeah.
Have you read the actual story on what he did, though?
Not fully.
So see if you can pull this up. I can outline it for you because I actually read the article about what happened today. So if you're listening to this and you don't know, Cain Velasquez is the former 2-time heavyweight champion, one of the baddest motherfuckers to ever walk the planet. And apparently what happened was Cain Velasquez's relative, don't know if they specified daughter, cousin, something like that, but some young family member.
On Rogan today with Bisbing, they were talking about it and they said his 4-year-old daughter.
They said his daughter?
Yeah, that's what they said.
I just kept seeing relative, and I don't know if it's because they're hiding the identity or if, for whatever reason, I just kept seeing relative. But I read the article today, and basically what happened is apparently this person had been molesting his young relative, let's say, for multiple times. This has happened multiple times. And apparently the original story that I read had said that Cain had shot him. Right? That was the original story that I read. So my initial thought is, okay, yeah, somebody's trying to molest Cain Velasquez's daughter or relative or whatever the case may be. Cain fucking snapped and shot him. I was like, right. Justified. Of course, right? But then I actually read the story. And what the real story reported was that apparently they had some conflict and they left in a vehicle. And they were trying to basically flee in a vehicle. And Cain got into his vehicle and then chased them in a car down the road and then fired a shot into a car with multiple people in it, including this boy's dad. And that he managed to hit not the guy who molested his relative, but actually the father of the guy who molested his relative in a high-speed chase. And he hit not the guy he was trying to, and there were multiple people in the car. And so I saw that, and I'm like, my initial knee-jerk reaction is like everybody else who heard the story, which is like, yeah, I mean, fuck that dude.
Yep.
Like, but what we all wish, I feel like the collective consciousness of the martial arts community's wish had happened was just that Cain Velasquez beat the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
But instead, he got into a high-speed pursuit where he fired a shot into a car full of multiple people and did not hit the person who he was accusing of the crime.
Yeah.
And when you think about it from that lens, you're like, oh, man. He didn't kill him, thankfully. But the charge, as far as I read, was attempted murder.
Yeah, that's what it says.
And it's just so messy, Jake. It's so messy. It's so convoluted and it's so adjacent to the actual person who he had the real issue with.
Don't have a lot of sympathy for someone trying to
But do you have sympathy for the dad that got shot probably just trying to run with his kid?
Yeah, but if he knows what his kid did and what this guy's after.
But it's still your kid and you didn't do that. He didn't do that and he shot.
Yeah, you're trying to help a child molester escape though, so sorry.
Yeah, but he didn't do it. And he got shot by the UFC heavyweight champion. I'm just saying it's the feeling of dissatisfaction comes from the fact that it's indirect.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it just makes it unsatisfying. Because it is satisfying to all of us if he attempted to shoot that guy and hit him. If he hit him, if he didn't hit him, or if he just beat the shit out of him, I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
But you definitely just can't get into a car firing shots while you're chasing somebody down a street.
No, that's a terrible idea.
Not good. Not good. And then, I don't know, maybe I'm not, maybe you guys, if you disagree with me, please just throw it in the comments. But I'm also thinking about this from a isolated point of view because I'm not in it.
Yeah.
But my other knee-jerk response is that, and this is in defense of his child or his relative or whatever, of course you would want to do something for that. And you would want to do something because of that. But in a kind of twist, in a kind of universe shitting on you and just nature destroying you, you end up taking yourself away from your daughter that you were trying to protect.
Yeah, I mean...
And it's just a cruel twist of fate. You end up actually depriving your child from you.
Yep.
And how much more beneficial would that time have been if you could just keep your shit together?
I mean, you hope he just gets off. I know.
Yeah, I know. Because he didn't. No one actually died.
Yep.
So in defense of him, that's the good thing. I don't see how he gets off not serving some prison time though.
Yeah,
for shooting somebody that you didn't intend to and hitting somebody, like, it's just so fucking messy. And I might be in the minority here. I don't know, because everybody's arguing on his side, and I am too.
Yeah.
But it's the unintended consequences that I'm arguing against, and the idea that in your rage, if you were to attack that person, I would be in favor of that. But if you're in your rage, you're willing to expend other people, we're getting into a different area.
Yeah.
And it's like in a street, chasing him in a car. Get that dude, isolate that dude, plan meticulously for weeks and find a way to beat the shit out of dude. All of that stuff I would be in favor of. But snapping and getting in a high-speed car chase and chasing and shooting into a car, like, it's just...
But, you know...
But the rage, I understand, like, right?
You can't...
And apparently this happened multiple times. I read something that said this had happened multiple times.
Yeah.
And so you have to just... Everybody can sympathize with Cain's rage.
Yep.
And the fact that he lost his temper.
No one...
Like, we can all get behind that.
No one can say they wouldn't have done that themselves. Like, no one. Like, everybody can say, yeah, I could see how I would have done that. I mean, no one can say, oh, no, probably... no, I'd have remained calm. Bullshit.
What a crazy story that Cain Velasquez is in jail for attempted murder. I mean, who... if you and I had this conversation last week, right?
Yeah, how many times would we have said John Jones?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we're talking about Cain Velasquez. Universally loved. Like, Cain is universally loved. And then you hear the story surrounding it, and then you're like, oh, God, what a brutal situation to be in if you're him. And, like... Because we all can understand that processing that and being objective about it is impossible.
Yeah, not happening.
You are a complete victim to the circumstance. And... we all would like to pretend that like we would keep our shit together, but we all probably understand we would snap also. So how do you deal with it? It's another one, man. We got another. I mean, I feel like he might be in jail for a long time, man. By the time they get through his
because he's got more
court
than that.
case,
he's got more
11
than
charges,
charge,
13 charge, whatever the number was. Like there's some big number of all different charges that he was dealing with. Maybe you can find it. So we can be specific, but the attempted murder was just one.
Faces 10 charges in total, including shooting an occupied motor vehicle, 3 counts of assault with a firearm, 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle, carrying a loaded firearm with intent to commit a felony, amongst other things.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah, I mean that is not the ideal situation to be in, and it's just such a moral fucking quagmire, right? It really is. Just because first of all,
there are clear extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
He didn't just get in his car one day and go, I'm just going to drive around shooting my gun at someone.
I mean, I feel like the court will understand,
yeah, and
he will get some lenience because they will understand it. But also, I feel like you probably got to do some time, man. Like
you can't also allow the message though that that's okay because this time nothing that bad happened.
But if he just beat the shit out of him,
yeah.
I think we can all collectively agree. Remember there was that, I was talking to somebody, I think Ron, about this earlier today. Remember the case in Texas where the guy had found, like literally found this guy who was like, he considered him like a brother, like an uncle to the girl or whatever. Yeah. And he found him molesting her when she was like 5 years old back behind some barn or something like that. Beat him within an inch of his life. Got off scot-free. And the collective world sighed a sigh of relief.
Yep.
Right? Because it's like, didn't kill him. Could have. Maybe you can make the argument should have. But we're not playing that argument. We're going to try to come from a moral high ground where the average individual is not the moral arbitrator of the death penalty, right?
Yeah.
We're going to take that high ground and assume that it's not within our right to take someone's life for a crime that may be very heinous, right? But to beat him within an inch of his life, everybody was like, yep, we're good.
I actually prefer those prison rules of like child molesters are kill on sight. I'm fine with that.
Maybe they do, but maybe you're fucking Batman and you have the one rule.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that should be the rule, right? It really should be. It, like in a vigilante rage, and people have also gotten off for that too in the past, killing in rage and protective of their family members and stuff like that. And it's a sticky situation, and there are times where it's maybe appropriate, and there are times maybe where it's not. But the point is, we all collectively agree that beat that fucking dude's ass. But you can't just be killing people. Like, you can't just be fucking chasing people in a car.
No, maybe not that far.
I'm putting a ridiculously dark spin on this, but you just can't be killing people, man. You can't be doing that. So I don't know. I'm conflicted on this. I'm really conflicted on it.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't know that.
Everybody seems to be in the free Cain Velasquez camp, and I am too. But it was a crazy circumstance.
Yeah,
this is a crazy story from a former well-beloved UFC heavyweight champion. Man, what a world we live in. Isn't it crazy? Is it? Are we victims of circumstance and victims of short-sightedness, or are we living in a particularly crazy time?
No, all of human history has been fucking mentally. You just put like a timeline on a wall, throw a dart at it, wherever it lands since the beginning of recorded history. Some mad shit was happening like 5 years either side of that date, if not on that date.
That's true, but if you think about like the great innovations that have happened in the last, like, let's say 50 years, within our lifetime or our parents' lifetime, right? You've got, I mean, you could go back slightly further and get way more profound with something like, we can go simple, we keep it like internet, social media, obviously a pandemic that we're living through.
I'll go back in time, I'll raise you the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I can only go back like, I can go back less than 100 years and we're talking about electricity.
Yeah.
The very fundamental thing, vehicles, airplanes. But within the last 50 years, there's been some massive innovations, of course, including the internet. Right, which has just changed the way that we see about everything. And then obviously the pandemic is the greatest threat to us, at least in the way that the world has responded to it in
our lifetime.
Our lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay, we can say that. And then you got the wars now cooking back up. Things are getting a little weird in Taiwan, and a little weird in Hong Kong, and a little weird in China, and a little weird in Russia and Ukraine, and Donald Trump, and all of a sudden you got Brexit, and you're getting some weird shit going on in the Arab Spring. You're getting some weird stuff, dude. We're in a weird time.
I don't.
And the innovations, social media alone, can probably top that list. Like,
I do and I don't agree though. Like, if you were alive at this time in the 1800s, you got mad stuff going off. And like suddenly, like you can send a telegraph to anywhere on the planet, and it'll get there instantaneously. Like, stuff like that was mind blowing. And then you're like, we've got the Boer War going on and France is invading somewhere in Africa. Like, people at that time as well must have thought everything was mad and the world was coming to an end.
Yeah, it's always weird when you go back and look at some of those newspapers from like D-Day and from Japan bombing Pearl Harbor. Or you go and look at even some of the ones in Singapore are crazy. You ever seen any of the headlines about the war in Singapore when it's coming? It's fucking crazy.
It's insane.
Charmaine was like, so we were watching the thing about Russia and Ukraine, and Charmaine was like, she was like, I mean, this thing is whole ridiculous. It's like, we're in an age that lives beyond war. Like, when was the last time that there was a war? And I was like, your country got taken over less than 100 years ago. The country that you are living in was overrun by Japanese in a horrific stealing of a nation. Like,
you were in a guerrilla war with like communists. That only ended about 15 years ago.
They took over like the Johor Bridge that you like, you know what I mean? Like, we literally like... How quickly we all forget how crazy life can be.
Can we finish? We went dark, so we'll finish on what I think is quite a positive note.
All right, bring it back, Jake. Let's get us on the fucking straight and narrow, please.
So some of my uncles served in Singapore in the Second World War and were captured by the Japanese, and for fairly obvious reasons then had a hatred of the Japanese for the rest of their lives, to the extent where, like, when I was a little kid, you'd be like, Uncle James, what was the war like? And he'd be like, fucking Japanese, fucking like, hated them, animals, all of them. So you got that background. And then when I first moved to Singapore, I got asked if I wanted to sing in a band, which was a Blues Brothers tribute band. So I went along, and half the band were like Japanese guys, like friends of mine, who turned out to be friends of mine in the band. And bizarrely, I went to that event in Singapore on Victory in Japan Day, and like me and a load of Japanese guys and like Western guys, who our grandparents were literally killing one another here in Singapore, like what, in the 40s, 30s and 40s. Like that happened. We may well have had, grandparents.
And it's literally
uncles.
grandparents.
Oh yeah, literally grandparents.
Yeah.
Like, what's that, 2 generations back from me. So they were killing each other on this island. Like maybe our own relatives were firing guns at one another. And then, I can't remember which anniversary it was, 60-year anniversary, 70-year anniversary, whatever it was. Me and a load of Japanese guys are here in Singapore drinking beers on a roof, playing the greatest hits of the Blues Brothers together.
Yeah.
So it shows you as well how quickly
crazy?
things can change for the positive.
I mean, dude, in the 1960s, black people couldn't fucking vote. That is like literally like your parents were alive then. People did not have equal rights. I mean, fucking gay marriage just got legalized. Like, what? Goddamn, in America. I mean, in Singapore, it's still a fucking crime.
In Singapore,
It still is.
this is my marriage. Can't be gay, it's illegal.
I know. And you're still dealing with this shit, right? I mean, this is crazy. Like, we live in a crazy world.
For a country where being gay is illegal, if you go to certain parts of town at a certain time on a Friday and say, there's a lot of gay dudes.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to the Pink Dot thing like two times.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, I'll go. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll happily go to that. It sounds like a good time. But yeah, we live in, I definitely feel like with historical hindsight, we live in a time that is distinctly unique, for sure.
Yeah.
Just by the rise of the internet alone. And how things are, I mean, something like technology as innovative as cryptocurrency. I mean, remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
When we should have bought Bitcoin.
When we should have bought Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And then now everything is like crypto.com.
UFC?
NFTs. No, I saw some Tim Dillon quote. I don't know if you saw this meme, but he's like, we live in a day and age where a fucking digital artwork piece is going for the same price as a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that even mean? Like, what the fuck? People buying real estate in the metaverse?
This is why I think we are doomed, because, people are buying JPEGs of cats for $4 million. That tends to suggest the economy's not in a good place.
I mean, yeah, and then you're dealing with
There's a
rising
crash
gas prices, hyperinflation, inflation going all across the world. Let's get a little Alex Jones on this podcast. How about we do that? Dip our toes into that. All right, Jake.
We need Ron for that.
Ron's coming, and Ron's going to bring the heat. I'm going to tell him to channel his biggest Alex Jones when he comes on the podcast. So if you guys want to see a MAGA-supporting, white supremacist Chinese MMA coach come on this podcast and talk shit, I got Uncle Ron for you.
Who I am going to drip feed conspiracy theories to for the next 2 weeks just to get him ready.
Yes, please. Ron's going to love that we're talking about him. You're such a sociopath. He's going to get a hard on just knowing that we're talking about him right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Jake, we hit everything that we wanted to, right? We made our goals. We hit it up. Dude, this is like episode 67?
66.
I got someone for
3 off the good one.
I got someone already for episode 69. So for all you inappropriate man children out there that giggle at the sound of hearing the letters 69 or the number 69 put together, I got you. No, I got one. I got 69 already ready. So 68 will be Ron and Steven, right? Is that next week?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. So next week we'll come back with a new episode of the podcast. Everybody, thank you all for listening. If you like this podcast, if you enjoy it, please like, share, subscribe. Jake, in the house. Stronghold podcast, in the house. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you all for listening. Have a good day. Oops. I'll just clip it there.